Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm Hilmarie Hutchison, CEO of Matrix Public Relations, and today I'm joined by my wonderful co-host Namita. Welcome Namita, how are you today?
Hey Hilmarie, I'm good, thank you. I'm so looking forward to today's episode as we are talking to Tina Chagoury. She is truly inspirational, juggling various roles from being a mother, a licensed clinical dietitian, a health behavior educator, to a media spokesperson and a breast cancer survivor.
Tina also stars as a regular TV expert guest on NBC One, where she has been addressing women's health and nutrition issues for over 10 years. Tina, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to our talk.
We are as well. So Tina, can you please tell our audience a little bit about you, your background and how you ended up here in the UAE?
Yes. So my name is Tina Chagoury. I am born Choueiri. So Chagoury is my husband's family name. In Lebanon, we carry the husband's family name when we get married. I'm Lebanese, born and raised in Lebanon. I actually moved to the UAE in 2005 for a job. So I took up a job with Lively. Back then, they had not opened yet, and I joined the founding team. And we set up the clinical department. I basically moved to join Lively, and the plan was to come for like a couple of years, get some experience, and go back home. And here we are, 16 years later. So I made the UAE our second home. I met my husband, had my two children. They're also raised here. They go to school here. So yeah, this is in a nutshell my coming to Dubai specifically.
Fantastic. So many people do that. They come, they think they'll stay for a few years, and then they end up just falling in love with the place and just staying for good.
Yeah, I think everyone say that. Yeah.
I think everyone who comes and decides to move here falls in love with the country and with the city and never want to go back. So we're lucky. We're really lucky to have a place to call second home, really.
Yes, exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Story of every expat. So moving on, how did you decide to get into becoming a clinical dietitian?
Yes. So it's actually a funny story. I initially wanted to become, it's half funny, half dramatic, actually. I initially, I always wanted to be a doctor and a surgeon in specific. So unfortunately, back then when I graduated from school, the only university my parents could afford did not have a medical school. So obviously it was very painful for them to tell me that, you have to settle for the second best because the school that we can afford does not have a medical school. So obviously because, the second best basically was biology. So I did enroll in their biology program and I wasn't happy at all. I was very, very miserable. So what I did is in secret, I actually applied to the number one American university in Lebanon and Beirut. And just out of curiosity, because I was very curious to see if I would actually get accepted into pre-med. So I did all the application by myself. Obviously, I'm talking, this was 1998. So there was no internet. There was internet, but we couldn't apply over the internet. So I had to drive back and forth, fill the application, gather my documents without anyone knowing. Anyways, few weeks later, the results were out. So it was the first time I actually drive my car down to Beirut because I live in the suburbs. So on the way to the university to check on the board, they used to put them on a board, the results. It was not online or anything of this sort. So on my way down, I had first a car accident. It was a very mild bump. It was a very mild bump, actually, on the highway. Thankfully, nothing happened. I go there, I check, I was accepted into the 3 majors that I had applied for. None of them was nutrition. So the majors were biology, and I can't remember the other 2. Biology as a pre-med. So just to cut the story short, I met with my advisor. Obviously, I came and I told my parents, and it was really bittersweet for them. They were very happy and proud that I got in, but at the same time, they were very sad that they could not afford it. And so I remember very well my dad then told me, you know what, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. And in fact, this is a painful memory actually, when I think of it, of how selfish kids can be. Anyway, so I went in. I was very lucky to be able to go in. I met with my advisor, and the first thing he told me is, why are you interested in pre-med? I told him, because all my life I wanted to become a surgeon, and I want to be a surgeon, and this is what I want. He told me, and are you ready to study for the next 10 years of your life? I told him, yes, I'm ready. I want to be a surgeon. He's like, have you contemplated any paramedical major? It could be probably attractive to you, especially that you're interested in biology studies and so on. Nutrition back then was not very popular. And there were probably dietitians. You could count the number of dietitians on one hand. So it intrigued me when he suggested the nutrition program. And I did some research, and I thought, wow, it's like right in the middle. You still get a life. You don't have to study for more than 4 years. And then at the same time, it appears to be one of the sciences of the future. So I dived in, not really knowing what to expect. Like I told you, it wasn't very popular. And it was love at first sight. From the first course I took, I fell in love with the major. I was so passionate about what I was doing, the people I met, the professors I met. We're still in touch until now. So yes, it was definitely the right choice for me. And this is my story, how I started with the nutrition, and I don't regret it one bit.
Amazing. Yeah. So if I'm not wrong, Tina, you have been practicing dietetics here in Dubai for over 17 years. Did I say that right? Dietetics?
Yes.
Tell us
yes,
more about
right.
that, please.
Yeah, it's around it's around 16, 17 years. I think also that I came to Dubai at the right time. So I was, like they say, in the right place at the right time, because it was that year, those couple of years, 2005 and 6, where I remember when I first came, there was no Burj Khalifa, there was no Mall of the Emirates, there was no Dubai Mall. So the city was really boiling in action. Everything was happening.
Right.
Centers were opening left and right, malls. People were talking about Dubai all over the world. It was the gem of the Middle East.
Right.
So coming here, when I came and joining Lively, I give a lot of credit to this company and the founder, Suraya, with whom I worked for almost 15 years. It was really a very special time to be here in 2005 and watch the awareness of people increase. Within a couple of years, people were more aware of the need for nutrition in their life, the need for dietetic services, the need for healthy food, the need for awareness. People were reading more. Again, I tell you, 2005, there was no social media, was not a thing, so we would go on the online to check for information, but information wouldn't come to us like it does now. So people were seeking this kind of information. They would book appointment. Actually, I remember having moms book appointment to come and see me only to ask questions. Now you can get it online. You can ask any dietitian or any health professional online. So yes, it was at the same very challenging because we were part of spreading awareness on this new science, if you want, and these new services. But at the same time, we were lucky enough to be able to be there at this time, because there wasn't many dietitians, there weren't many centers. So business was great. We had amazing success stories. We were on TV, we were on radio. So it was a special, I would say, couple of years at the beginning. Obviously, Lively is still doing an amazing job until now, but it's always the beginning, the first few years, especially when the company has just started and when you're part of the founding team, it's very special. It's like a newborn to you.
Agreed.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
An amazing experience. Now, I've seen some of your videos that you've put up on your YouTube channel where you share some tips for post-workout and movie night snacks. Can you share some tips with our audience on what are
Of
good
course.
snack food options?
Of course. So, things that I always recommend are high protein snacks because of it's very important during the day to keep your insulin levels in control. And to keep your insulin levels in control, your sugar intake should be very well in control. I rarely recommend any sugary or sweet snacks, obviously. And I always focus on the protein intake because proteins do stabilize your insulin. So when we say protein, we say carrots and hummus. We say cheese cubes for those who don't have any issues with dairy and lactose. We say vegetables. You can do like a platter with some olives, some vegetables, some nuts, raw nuts, some Lebanese dip or guacamole dip, like avocado dip. On the go, you can always have a cup of Greek yogurt with some seeds in it. I love to always recommend that we throw in those little snacks that we have, whether it's a bowl or it's a smoothie, throw in some goodness like spices, like nuts and seeds. In our soups and our salads, you can't imagine the benefits seeds and nuts can add to your diet. Even if it's a handful every day, if like flaxseed, for instance. I became obsessed with flaxseed. The last couple of years after my personal experience, flaxseed has so much beneficial effects and so much healing effects on the body that now I recommend even children, patients of mine, to always include flaxseed and other seeds, obviously pumpkin seed and sesame seeds, whenever you can. So have those jars in your kitchen in a glass container, like very attractive, nice, where you can see them so that you don't forget. And then have little wooden spoons inside and, add it to the sandwiches, add it to the salads. If you're doing a bolognese for the kids, just drop in some. If you're doing a pancake, drop in some. You can have them obviously milled, grounded, so that, if the kids don't particularly like the texture or the taste. So you can sneak in some goodness.
That's brilliant. That's
Wow,
fantastic.
interesting.
Fantastic advice. So you just sprinkle it over the various things that you're preparing.
Everything, absolutely everything. In Lebanon, we have a very common sandwich or snack. We put labneh on toast with some za'atar and olive oil on top. This is a very common Lebanese breakfast or snack, or we can have the manouche. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's, the dough with the za'atar or the cheese inside. I always recommend, and I always as well give my children and myself, this little toast with a bit of labneh and za'atar and a sprinkle of flaxseed on top. When you mix it with food, you don't really taste it. When I'm doing my acai bowl, it has Brazil nut, it has flax seeds, walnuts, almonds, coconut, shredded coconut. So all of these, you don't really, kids won't take a bowl of those raw nuts and just walk around eating them. There are a few who like, but most kids don't particularly enjoy taking nuts as a snack. So when you add it to them with something that they actually like, be it an acai bowl or a nice Greek yogurt smoothie or coconut smoothie, that's it. You've given them like a good push in terms of immunity, in terms of digestion, in terms of prebiotics. So it's a win-win.
Thank you for that. Excellent.
Amazing. I think our mother listeners are going to all thank you a lot, Tina, after listening to this.
Yes.
So Tina, tell me, if someone has an appointment with you, what are some of the things they can figure out together with you? Do you also run any kind of tests on them? What's the process like?
Yeah. So basically, a typical consultation would be usually in my practice is divided into three or four parts. So the first part is to know the person at a personal level. And I have a chat. I like to ask about, where they're from, if they're married or not, if they have children or not. Now, sometimes the conversation or those questions are relevant to the case, especially, let's say, if we're talking about a woman who experienced weight gain during pregnancy. Obviously, we have to tackle this. And sometimes it's irrelevant. And yet I still like to know more about the person in front of me, because it gives me more empathy when it comes to organizing their plan, when it comes to preparing their menu, because, not two people are the same. And, lifestyles, stressors, the way they sleep, where they work, if they like what they do, if they wake up super early with the children, if their husbands or spouses don't live in the same city. So many challenges affect how people eat, right? So I get to know more about them at a personal level. And then we go deeper into their nutrition history and medical history. The concerns they have, why they came to visit me, what's their targets, what their objectives, what are their troubles, what are their challenges from a medical and, nutrition point of view. And then obviously we look at data. So if they didn't come with a set of tests already done, I will ask for some tests to be done. Typically we have just a general blood test to check for deficiencies, for thyroid function, for blood lipids, for blood glucose, for insulin. And obviously, if the person is suffering from any medical condition, we might require more tests just to make sure that we have everything, in front of us. Mm-hmm. And then based on, everything that I just mentioned, we put together a plan of action. We set targets and we discuss the, timeline, and just like you would do with any business project, it's exactly the same. So you do the planning and you put a plan of action, and then you start evaluating and monitoring the progress. It's exactly the same. The only difference is that we're dealing with humans. So there's a lot of feelings involved. There's a lot of stress involved, and there's a lot of interpersonal, obviously, relation that is built throughout the process.
Sure. Amazing. So it sounds like you get a really thorough understanding about the person before you start making any recommendations.
Absolutely. It's essential. This is why I always say the first meeting with your provider, with your dietitian in our case, is sacred. You cannot just go online and pick a diet. It doesn't work like this. There's something about that first visit and the connection that you create. And mind you, many times you go and meet with a doctor and you're not comfortable. You meet with a dietitian and you're not comfortable. Right. And it's your absolute right, because at the end of the day, it's a human relation. So once this is set and you feel comfortable, then everything else becomes easier when they trust you and they believe in you and you have credibility and compassion. I think this gives the success formula.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Now, let's change gears a little bit. As Namita mentioned earlier, you are also a breast cancer survivor. Would you mind talking to us about that experience?
Of course, yeah. Yes, so in 2019, during summer holidays in Lebanon, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. It wasn't actually during my self-exam. I was actually putting on my underwear, my bra. But I'm someone who's always always self-checked, always had my appointments on time, always visited my gynecologist. I hadn't done any mammogram because I was only 39. And obviously, so the scheduled mammogram was supposed to be at 40. So I felt a lump. I had it checked instantly on the spot. The radiography technician, the ultrasound technician, felt something is off. He requested a mammogram and a biopsy, and we did them in a couple of days. We had everything done within 3 days, thankfully, because usually the wait is extremely long. So thankfully, I had friends and colleagues working in the hospital, and I could get my result earlier. So within 3 days, it was confirmed to be stage 2 ductal carcinoma, which is ductal carcinoma is a very common type of breast cancer. Stage 2 means it has spread to 1, 2, or 3 lymph nodes. Okay. And it was hormone receptor positive, which means very sensitive to estrogen, the female hormone. So And then I underwent immediate treatment, being 39 only and having it at stage 2. So because I had a lymph node affected, they had to immediately start with a very dense dose of chemotherapy. So before the surgery, before anything else, I was put on this dose dense, we call it chemotherapy, for 4 weeks, followed by another 12 weeks, 12 if I'm not mistaken, on another course of chemotherapy. And then finally I had, this treatment was done in Beirut because anyways we were there. And then finally I came back, I came back, I put the kids back because, the whole, I had to relocate, obviously. I had to relocate with the children and stayed in Beirut for 6 months. And then around January, I could bring them back to put them back in their schools here. And I went back for the surgery. I had a lumpectomy, thankfully, because I responded very positively to the treatment and was free of cancer by the end of my chemotherapy. So the surgery was reduced to just a lumpectomy. And then I came back to Dubai and I did my preventive radiotherapy in the American hospital here. Yeah.
Wow, what an experience. And it was so fortunate that you caught it so early and took immediate action.
Absolutely. I'm grateful. Absolutely. This is a blessing, definitely, for sure.
Sure. So, Tina, I know this entire journey must have been extremely challenging, but if you have to talk about one part of this journey which was a bit tougher than the rest of the journey, what would you say was the most challenging or the toughest part?
Yeah. Well, any cancer patient or cancer survivor would tell you everything from A to Z is challenging, whether it's physical or mental or spiritual. But if I have to choose, or if I have to talk about the most challenging part, it would have to be physically, it was the chemotherapy, the first round of chemotherapy. It was probably the most harsh thing to experience physically. It's like having a drip of poison every week in your veins. So you have no energy, you're nauseous, you're vomiting, you have pains and aches everywhere. You have to take daily injections for your immunity. You can't eat, you can't see anyone. It was actually 8 weeks. So I would do it every 2 weeks. I would 2 weeks take a dose, and so usually after the session, I would be in bed for 8 days. I couldn't see anyone. I couldn't hear any noises.
Wow.
And then I would get up, see my kids again, be able to visit my parents, my mom again. And so on. The second phase was much easier. It was where the second phase is where you actually lose your eyebrows, the hair is lost after the second session, actually, and the first dose. Anyways, so the chemotherapy is definitely one of the toughest experiences in my life. The fact that I had lost my dad only 2 months before my diagnosis was also very challenging for us as a family. Yeah, for us as a family, more than for me, obviously, but also for us as a family.
Yeah.
And having to relocate, as shallow as it may sound, it was very difficult emotionally for me, for the children, for my husband, to stay away from home and to move them schools, to put them in temporary schools for 6 months, to change, all your habits, to not see your friends, for them to not see their friends. Your whole life is a mess. So yeah, that too was pretty challenging on all of us as well.
Yeah, what a difficult experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a very strong woman, Tina, and very, very inspirational as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
What would you say was the best advice you received during this time?
There's something I used to always remember. My first cousin, Fadia, which I say hi to if she will listen to the podcast.
Nice.
She had suffered from breast cancer 10 years earlier, and she was also 39 when she was diagnosed. So it gave me a bit of strength and a bit of hope to see her and be with her every day and be able to talk to her. And she would always tell me, whatever you're experiencing now is just a phase, and it will be over soon. Because when you're in it, you think that this is the end. Many times the treatment is so harsh. that sometimes I would think that the treatment is going to kill me. It's not cancer that's going to kill me. It's the harshness of the
Yeah.
treatment that I'm going
Right.
through that might kill me. So it was scary. It was, there is a very dark spot. No matter how well surrounded you are, and no matter how well read you are, and no matter how good your research and your, doctors are informing you, there is always this dark spot that awaits you in the evening when you go to bed and everybody's sleeping, and you start, ruminating on those ideas and thinking, what if, and then you go online and you read stories, and you don't always, and this is something I highly, highly recommend to anyone who's going through this. Don't go online. Don't research your symptoms. Don't research your disease. Don't, because you will never read what you want to read, and it's not always accurate. It will really spiral you into a very dark hole, and you'd get nothing out of it. If you have any question or any doubt, just ask your doctor, ask your nurse, ask someone who has been through this. Ask me. I'm here. I'm available. Anyone who's going through this, but don't go online, because it's
Excellent.
really it's a killer. Yeah.
Yeah, very good
Sure.
advice.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Tina, like you mentioned, you had a very, very strong support system at home.
Mhm.
And family support is extremely important when you're going through any challenging time of your life. So,
Yeah.
from your experience, what advice would you give to the family members of those fighting breast cancer or any form of cancer?
There's something I always mention when I'm talking about this topic is definitely how important support is from the husband or the spouse or the wife, from the children, from the mom, from the mother-in-law, from the siblings, from the sisters and brothers. It's extremely important. It's actually what keeps you going. But at the
Sure.
same time, there is something very sacred about being a cancer patient. And I know that many overlook this point, that the cancer patient is still the same. She or he is still the same exact person. He or she knows the same things, want the same things, aspire the same things, still think the same way, behave the same way. So there's a tendency with family and close people, friends as well, to treat a cancer patient as if he or she is less of what he or she was. And this obviously is done out of good intentions. It's done out of care, out of worry, out of wanting to protect. But at the same time, it gives a sense of, already a cancer patient feels helpless because of what's happening. It's something that's out of your hands, and you can't really do anything about it except, undergo the treatment and do what you can do. But, this treatment or the behavior with the patient can give him a sense of more helplessness. And I think what they need the most at this point is to feel whole again and to feel normal again. And that means give them some space. If they want to be alone, let them be alone. If they want to do things on their own, even if you don't think they are able to do it or it will get them tired, let them be. Especially when it comes to mothers, we as moms are fierce. We want to
Yes.
take care of everything all the time.
Absolutely.
We want to control the children, their school, what they're eating, what they're wearing, what they're playing, who they're seeing. And then all of a sudden have someone come and tell you, just take care of yourself, nap, sleep, eat, and we will handle your children. I think this is the biggest no-no.
Yeah.
You don't say that to a mom. You can
Sure.
assist with maybe, sending some good food, baking some cakes for the kids, but she has to take care of the children. She wants to take care of the children. She wants to know what they're doing, as much as she can. So I would say just give them space and let them be. They can be, unless they're absolutely drained and they ask for your complete, like they ask you to completely take over things. I don't think you need to do it unless they ask.
That's very valuable insight. Thank you for sharing that. So, considering your background as a dietitian, what would you say is the role of nutrition in dealing with cancer?
If you had asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have told you, nutrition is important because, during the treatment, patients have nausea and vomiting, and we have to give them food that help. And then after the treatment, they probably lost weight. And, well, It's not that. Nutrition is at the core of cancer,
Wow.
be it in the prevention or be it in the treatment or be it in the healing afterwards. The relationship between deficiencies and between the food we eat and the prevalence of cancer and the occurrence of cancer is beyond what you can imagine. There are, especially nowadays, in the past 2 decades, there are tons of research done on, I'm obviously, I am reading more about breast cancer and female cancers, but all cancers are related to nutrition. The number one advice I would give anyone who is listening now, don't ignore your deficiencies. Make sure you're always on top of your health, your iron, your vitamin D, your B vitamins, do your regular checks. And I'm not talking about the regular checks, okay, I don't have cholesterol, I don't have diabetes, I'm fine, I'm good. No. Go further. Check for optimal nutrient values in your blood. Make sure you're well equipped. Make sure you're taking the supplements that your provider is recommending. Don't underestimate. Vitamin D deficiency, for instance, has been linked with a higher occurrence of advanced stages of breast cancer. So basically, the studies have proven that if you've been diagnosed with breast cancer and at the time of diagnosis you were very deficient in vitamin D, chances are you have been diagnosed at a later stage, believe it or not. So, and I'm not saying this to scare anyone, it's just an eye-opener, because I too, as a dietitian and as a healthcare provider, I didn't know this information. I knew it was important, but I didn't know to that extent. So, keep supplementing yourself whenever needed, eat healthy, get away as much as possible from processed food, from junk, for you, for the kids, for everyone. I know it's easier said than done, and I know that we are surrounded with processed food, but there's processed and there's ultra processed. So there's the bread that is processed, and there's the snacks, chips, some cereals that are ultra processed. So stay as natural as you can be. I always advocate for a flexitarian diet, which means plant-based. If you're not vegetarian or vegan and enjoy eating meat, have your meat occasionally, but let the base of your diet be plant-based, grains, whole grains, legumes, organic fruits and vegetables. And when you want to have meat, make sure you get good quality meats. Have grass-fed beef, have hormone-free organic chicken, have eggs that are fortified with omega-3 and, free range. There are so many advice, but in general, just eat clean. Eat clean and supplement yourself and be active. And this information is actually, this is the gem of the information. Be active, but don't be overactive. And a very high level of physical activity in regular people. I'm not talking about athletes who are trained to do that. I'm talking for a regular person. Over-exhausting yourself with very high intensity training on a regular basis, which sometimes you do despite your fatigue and your lack of sleep. This is a major cause of inflammation, and it has been linked to many diseases. So do exercise in moderation. Don't overdo it.
How interesting. I've not heard many people say that. That's incredible.
So Tina, since we're talking about lifestyle and diet choices, I want to ask you this question, that due to the pandemic, people have become somewhere more aware of their lifestyle choices or their diet choices.
Yes.
Are there any tips or suggestions you would like to give to our listeners on things they need to consider while making right choices to their daily diet? Because that's where the real struggle is, considering our busy routine over here in this part of the world, or rather now everywhere in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I would give them many advice. First of all, take it as an opportunity to rest. We underestimate the importance of sleep and rest. And I'm not talking only in terms of disease prevention, but also in weight loss. People usually, when they decide to go on a weight loss journey, they underestimate the importance of that. Basically, what they do is they remove time from their sleep and their naps and their rest to add more activities, to add exercise, to add any other activities. So I would first recommend, since now, as we are all stuck at home, most of us are working from home, Take it as an opportunity to reshuffle your time at your daily schedule. So even if it means sleep a bit longer in the morning, do it. Don't feel guilty. This is health. You're buying your health. Now, I understand, for instance, mothers and some people can't. They have, they work with the tight schedules. But if you can, take that extra half hour or hour in the morning to sleep. Cook more. This is one of the most important advice. Cook more, prepare more homemade meals, enjoy your grocery shopping, go to the market, get your fresh fruits, your fresh fish, enjoy it, make it a pleasurable experience. Don't think of cooking and preparing healthy meals as another chore and another hassle. In the contrary, make it a de-stress time for you. Cooking at home and knowing what ingredients you're using goes a long way, especially if you're trying to control your weight. And this is one of the major shifts I have noticed with my patients since the start of the pandemic. It's amazing how much this pandemic has taught us and taught especially super busy men and women around me. They used to order most of their meals. They used to eat in a rush. They used to, some of the people I know used to eat in their cars. Even with the children, we would feed them on the way to the activity, and on the way back to the activity, we'd feed them in the car. We were living in such a busy routine that it's taking away from our health. So now is the time to plan better, to cook better, and to be able to cook better, and actually to be able to cook, you have to plan. So another small piece of advice is plan your week ahead. Sit with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, with yourself, with your partner, with whomever lives with you in the house. Sit on Friday evening or Saturday afternoon and put down a weekly plan. What are the things you would like to eat that week? What would you need to buy for this? And once you have it on a plan, on just a scrapbook in front of you, you can also try to have as balanced as you can, your meals as balanced as you can. Like, okay, no, it looks like I'm going to have more meat than I'm supposed to. So let's remove this meat from here. Let's add a fish. If I need to have this fish on Tuesday, let me go on, Tuesday morning or Monday after work, go to the market, get some fresh fish. So it gives you like a good organization of your week. I know before most people couldn't do it because of and probably now, I know some people can't still until today, they're super busy, but if you can, and whenever you can do that, trust me, it makes a big difference. And then once you have your plan and once you start cooking at home, once you start having an easy going routine, easier going, then things fall into place.
Sure.
I don't like my patients to think of weight loss as a mission. I'm on a mission. Lose those 7 kilos. I will do anything in my strength. And then once I lose those 7 kilos, I am free again in the unhealthy world. And this is what people used to think. Like, fine, I will sacrifice. I have a very good willpower. I can really stop eating. Like, if you want me, I can stop eating for 5 days if you ask me to. But let me lose those pounds. No, it doesn't work like this at all. And the research has proven this. So just reorganize your life, reorganize your cupboards, reorganize your fridge, just do the whole reshuffle as if you're, setting up your new company. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
Great.
fantastic.
So planning and consistency is the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, Tina, our audience is going to really benefit so much from this valuable insight that you're giving us.
Absolutely.
The tips have been incredible. Let me ask you, what about children? How can parents help their children to learn to make healthy food choices?
Yeah, this would take another podcast, I think.
Maybe we can save that one for a future podcast.
No, for now, if I have to advise parents, first of all, start them young. And, even better, I'm going to say this, start them while you're pregnant. Children, even when they're inside the womb, can taste, what you eat, and can tell and take from your nutrients, because you're sharing your nutrients with your fetus. So even then, things start happening. So be a role model, eat healthy, be active yourself before you start implementing any strategies on your children. And then from a very young age, create a positive relationship with food. Create a connotation of pleasure and of satisfaction, of contentment, of mindfulness around meals. Don't create stress and don't create tension around what you should eat, what you should not eat. Yeah, eat this, don't eat that. This is good, this is bad. This is naughty, this is bad food, this is not good food. Don't label food and don't overemphasize things. Take things smoothly. At the end of the day, you're the boss, especially when they're very young. You decide what you buy from the grocery. You decide what you cook. You decide what they eat. You decide everything, basically. Now, obviously, when they get to a certain age, and I mean around 4 or 5, where you will give them the choice, but then you'll give them the choice between 2 things that you have decided on. So I always recommend, when you're dealing with little children, give them a choice because they want to feel independent, but you make sure that those 2 choices fall in the categories of, what you want to feed your family, but give them the choice. So I always say, decide what you're preparing and what time you're serving, but they decide if they would like to eat yes or no, and how much of it they want to eat. So don't impose, don't be from the finish your plate club, empty your plate and you'll get the sweet, empty your plate and you'll get the gift. Don't. This is the number 1 advice I would give parents. We were raised on that. I was raised on, if you finish your plate, you will grow to become a very strong woman. Right. If you finish your plate, you can eat this cake. And then we grow up thinking, and we grow up with the idea that we have to finish whatever is in front of us, be it healthy, not healthy, and then we get programmed into eating more than what we can handle sometimes, just because we have to finish our plate. And the best statement was, finish your plate, because some children can't afford food.
Exactly. I hear that all the time.
Yes. And as a child, you're thinking, okay, how will me finishing my plate relate to this child who can't eat? I'm not even going to send him food. Like, how is this related? Now, for them, now we understand that they meant that, appreciate the food because some people can't afford it. But as a child, they don't understand these details. So
sure,
the way children translate messages in their brain is not like an adult. So you have to understand how children translate your messages. I have a series on my Instagram of posts I have put a couple of years ago on how to say things and what to say and what not to say. For instance, if we're talking about nutrition, or don't tell a child, oh, look at your brother, he's done such a good job, he finished all his green peas. Why can't you be like your big brother or your small brother? This is a no-no. This is a no, because what the child will read and what the child will hear is, my mommy loves my brother more than me, full stop. Sure. He or she will not make this link that you're trying to motivate him so that he gets inspired. No. The only message he reads is, okay, my mom loves my brother more than me. And then, and this builds up. And this builds up, like, eat this and then I'll give you chocolate, means eventually, as they grow up on this idea, they become emotional eaters. They become people, adults who eat for pleasure. Why? Because my eating was linked to something, not my eating, the promise of the reward for me was a chocolate, which means chocolate or sweet or junk equals happiness. So as you grow up, you start building this in your mind and you start consuming this food, this, we call it comfort food, in an aim of getting pleasure out of it and relieving stress or boredom or feeling happier or feeling less lonely. That's how it is. So this is one of other advice I would give parents. I told you it can take a whole podcast.
Yeah, I can hear that, but it makes absolute sense. And really, there was some gems in there for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
So Tina, now we have come to an exciting segment of a show where we'll ask you a few rapid fire questions. So this is our version of a game show.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Let's go. Yes.
Okay. Your favorite snack to munch on?
Nuts. I don't want to sound too nutritionist, but it's nuts. Walnuts.
Okay, name one person that inspires you.
There's so many that inspire me. My mom, my mother, she's a very strong woman. She's the strongest woman I know.
Amazing. If you were to have a cheat meal, what would it be?
You know, I don't deprive myself. I enjoy food in general, but a dark chocolate mousse.
Ooh, sounds good.
Yeah.
Name a unique or interesting object you always carry in your handbag.
Object in my handbag. I have to take a look at my handbag. What do I carry that's interesting other than my wallet, other than my... I always have gum, actually, chewing gum, but that's not interesting. I think most people have. Nowadays, we all have hand gel as well. I do have, funny, I do have a small booklet, actually, not booklet, a small notebook, a tiny notebook, which
nice.
I always, by the way, I always write my notes, my to-do lists and my plans. I still do them on a notebook. So I have a journal, yeah.
Okay. So 3 ingredients that make boring food taste good.
Okay, olive oil,
Sure.
spices, maybe I need to specify one spice, black pepper, boring food tastes good, seeds. Honestly,
There you
if you
go.
throw it in salads. What's that?
Those were the things you were mentioning earlier about the seeds, adding the seeds to your food as well.
Yeah, exactly. It does make it interesting when you throw in to a soup or to a salad. People don't expect usually to see it inside.
Sure.
Very nice. And the last one, what is one thing that you do on a daily basis, regardless of how busy you are?
Shower and bedtime for my children. I have to do it. Yeah, it's and that half hour, especially now my oldest is 11, so she's not interested a lot about bedtime and cuddles, but my youngest is 6, so yeah, it's sacred to me. Everyone who knows me knows that there's this time between 7 and 9, I can't plan anything, I can't do anything. I have to be, wrapping the day up with them. Yes, definitely.
Lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing along, Tina.
That was fun.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah,
Now,
pleasure.
before we wrap up, we would like to do our green pill moment. So this is where we ask you, what green pill advice would you give to your younger self?
There's so many, but if I have to choose one, actually, it would be 2. I'll choose 2. Read more. And it sounds very cliche, but as a young person, I underestimated the power of reading. And whenever I had ample time to read, I didn't read. And now I really try to steal time to be able to sit with my book and read. So reading is really, gives you so much perspective, in a different perspective in life. So yeah, read more and have more fun. Definitely. Don't take yourself too seriously, Tina. You have no idea what's coming your way. So enjoy, have fun.
Fantastic.
Sure.
That sounds like good advice.
Yeah. Can I throw in a last advice?
Of course, please.
I just remembered, being, after the journey I've had with breast cancer, the second advice I would give myself as a young person is start your mammogram earlier than people tell you.
Very good advice.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very good. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tina, for sharing your fantastic and your inspiring story with us today. I am sure our audience will thoroughly enjoy this conversation and all the fantastic tips that you shared today. It was excellent.
It was a pleasure, honestly. I am so happy to be able to do this with you guys. I'm really looking forward to the podcast, and thank you for the very interesting questions indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina. And before we say our goodbyes, could you please share with us your social media handles?
Yes, it's at Tina Chagoury, TinaChagoury.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for joining us. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.